Welcome back to Twisted and Mysterious. This is part 2 of the podcast. Enjoy.
Magical talking mongoose, Gef. Or not magical.
He's not magical.
He's not magical.
He's a real alive mongoose.
Our very normal talking mongoose named Gef with human hands.
It's completely normal.
This is natural. He's part of the family. Don't you dare insult my son.
Basically. So, with all the people flocking to the island and all the publicity Gef was getting, he soon attracted the attention of Harry Price. So, I don't know how much you know about Harry Price, but he's sometimes referred to as like the first ghost hunter.
I may know who you're talking about.
I think he first became famous for investigating the Borley Rectory, and he was part of the Society for Psychical Research, and he was also known for debunking fake mediums.
Yeah.
And I think he also had some kind of beef with Harry Houdini.
Okay, I think I know who you're talking about.
So I think I some of those facts may not be correct. I'm just like trying to remember things that I have heard about him. But he's like a major player in like the spiritualist movement and those kinds of things. So Harry decides to delegate the initial investigation of Gef to a guy who worked in his lab called Harold Dennis. So Harold heads to the Island of Man, and he gets to Darlish Cashin and hangs out with the family for hours, and Gef makes no appearance. Okay, talking mongoose.
Gef has something to say.
Yes, for does. Okay. Hush. I'm trying to tell a story about a talking mongoose. Yeah, I know. Okay. So, Gef doesn't show up. And James decides he's going to walk Harold back to his hotel in Dalby. Is that right? Is that the name of that town?
I think so.
Oh, yeah, that is. Okay. I don't know why I thought it was wrong all of a sudden. So he decides to walk Harold back to Dalby. And as soon as they shut the door, they hear a voice shriek, "Go away, who is that man?" And they waited for a little while longer, and Gef didn't say anything else. Harold went back early the next morning and was told that Gef had been talking to James, like, all morning long. But Gef stopped talking after Harold showed up. Conveniently. James tells Harold that he'll have a stern word with Gef and convince him to talk to Harold that evening. But the Harold should also buy Vore a camera or a gramophone.
Yeah.
You know. So
while you're at it.
You know, maybe Gef would be more inclined to talk to you.
If you buy our daughter an expensive gift.
Yeah, it's totally fine. So James also told Harold that he would have to shout out how much he believed in Gef, because Gef told James that he didn't like Harold because he didn't really believe in him.
So what is it, like, clap if you believe in fairies, or however the Peter Pan thing goes?
I guess so. But shout if you believe in Gef. So
just shout at the top of your lungs if you believe in Gef.
Yes. So that evening, he's sitting in the kitchen with James and Vore when something was thrown across the kitchen, and it turned out to be a needle. And then they heard plates being shifted, but nothing was there. And Margaret had been out visiting her parents, and when she came back, she went upstairs with Vore to see if they could talk Gef into going to speak to Harold. And Harold, was even shouting at the room at large that he believes in the talking mongoose. And he finally heard a voice say, "No, I don't mean to stay long as I don't like you." So nothing else happened that night, and Harold left, and the next day he went back to England with his report for Harry Price. And he said that he believed the family to be genuine, and he didn't think that they were making up the story, but he also didn't know what to think about the haunting, if that's what it was. And after Harold's departure, Gef starts talking more about his past. So he tells James that he had belonged to 2 men in India, and he had been shot and killed before he made his way to the Isle of Man and had settled in Darlish Cashin 20 years ago. He said a man named Holland had taken him through Egypt, and he had seen the Sphinx.
But he's dead.
but he's a real alive mongoose.
He's not a weird ghost supernatural mongoose. He's a real alive mongoose that died.
Also dead. Yeah. So he kind of attaches himself to Voirrey and is with her most of the time. He would follow her around the farm and he would go with her to school, and they enjoyed playing hide and seek.
How do you play hide and seek with an invisible mongoose?
That's literally the question that I think every podcast I listened to asked. It was like, if he would always win. So Gef wasn't all fun and games, though.
And how...
No, go ahead.
No, I'm just trying to figure out... Like, I guess other than the fact that he can talk, supposedly, I guess, how would Voirrey know that he found her?
I don't know.
But how do you find Gef if no one's ever even seen Gef?
They saw a glimpse of him.
They caught a little snippet.
Yeah.
But I don't think that counts.
No. Well, they thought it counted. All right. So, Gef, not all fun and games.
If they saw him, they would have known he was a mongoose with hands.
I mean, they did. They said, well, I mean, they said
they didn't know he was a
a
mongoose.
rat-like creature.
Okay, well.
Good enough?
I guess.
All right. Okay. Not all fun and games.
Okay.
Okay. So once he told them.
I'm not sure if it's fun and games at all.
No?
It's pretty disturbing.
Yeah. So he told them once, I am not evil. I could be if I wanted. You don't know what damage or harm I could do if I were roused. I could kill you all, but I won't. Another time he said, if you are kind to me, I will bring you good luck. If you are not kind, I shall kill all your poultry. I can get them wherever you put them.
Maybe a pile of chickens this time instead of rabbits.
Well, then, I mean, that might be helpful. And when I was listening to Dark Histories, they also told another story about a time that Gef heard that a neighboring farmer was insinuating that Voirrey was behind the Dalby spook, and the next morning he woke up to find all of his poultry had been killed overnight.
Don't mess with Gef, guys.
Don't mess with Gef or Gef. In 1933, Gef was allowing the Irvings to pet him sometimes. All without being seen.
I guess it's like, I'll put my hand right here and you put your body underneath it.
Well, it was more like they would put their fingers through like the knot holes in the wall and they would feel his fur, and he would grip their fingers so that they could feel his little
dull hands.
And once he allowed Margaret to put her fingers in his mouth so that she could feel his teeth.
I'm not sure how I feel about Gef.
Gef's weird. If Gef's listening, I don't think you're weird. I believe in you. I don't think you're weird at all.
You're not creepy in the least, Gef.
Not at all, Gef. You're totally normal. You are a real alive mongoose who just happens to know how to talk.
You're intelligent.
You're an extra clever mongoose. Okay, so after this, they found a tuft of his hair or fur in a bowl, like an offering, maybe. And James sent it to Harold for testing. Harold sent it to Harry Price, who sent it to Professor Julian Huxley, who sent it to Martin Duncan at the London Zoo. And Martin wrote to Harry Price that the fur was not mongoose. It was also not rat, rabbit, squirrel, any rodent, sheep, goat, or cow. He thought that it came from a long-haired dog. He also, just a few days later, microscopically compared the hairs to hairs of a dog, and they looked almost identical. And it is worth noting that the Irvings did have a sheepdog named Mona.
Okay.
So once Gef told them that he'd sit for a picture with Voirrey's new camera, courtesy of Harold, I guess.
I guess.
But instead, he darted across the room so that when the picture was developed, there's no sign of Gef in the picture.
That rascal.
I know. So, I mean, he's very sassy. Harold visited the farm again 3 years after his first visit, and this time he actually stayed at the farm. And on I said on one occasion, but while he was there, he heard the voice of Gef when Voirrey had gone out to the outhouse. And another time he heard Gef when Voirrey was out in the yard. And I guess, like, the significance of that is that people did think that she was a ventriloquist. And not just a ventriloquist, but, like, just a natural ventriloquist, like that she could just do it without having been taught and practiced. Mm-hmm. And so I guess he felt like if he's hearing the voice when she's not in the house, then it wouldn't be her.
Right.
So anyway, at about 11 o'clock one night, Gef started making his knocking noises, and the noises started coming from all over the house. Harold said in his report that he heard a bedroom door, like, bang, and he heard a voice say, "Go and look." And they all went upstairs. Voirrey had been in bed for a couple of hours at this point, and they found Voirrey's door locked from the outside. They opened the door, and she said she thought Gef was running around the attic. They went back downstairs, and Gef started screaming and knocking and thudding, and he kept it up for like a solid 15 minutes. And then they hear a crash from upstairs. So they go back upstairs and they find that like a really big heavy chair had been knocked over. Gef starts screaming again, and then from the doorway to the kitchen they hear a voice say, "Hello, everybody."
Gef is possibly a cat.
Maybe Gef is a cat. And lied to them and said he was a mongoose. Because cats are liars.
Cats are liars. They will destroy your house and then be like, "Hey,
here I am.
What's up?"
So, I guess this went on for like quite a while longer with more crashes and things being thrown around. And finally, Margaret yelled at Gef to knock it off. And he did. And the next morning, Harold went and bought some cream cakes for Gef and then headed back to England.
Okay.
Yeah. So after this visit, Harry Price decides to visit the house for himself. He's like, whoa, that sounds crazy.
Gotta get me a piece of this mongoose.
Yeah. So he and his friend Richard Lambert, who was Rex to his friends, visited the farm on July 30th, 1935. Rex was the head of BBC's adult education department and was the editor of the Listener magazine. The first night, Gef didn't make an appearance. The next day, Harry and Rex tried to take Voirrey on a boat trip to try to observe her and see what she was like away from the family. Mm-hmm. But James invited himself along, and he kind of dominated the conversation on the trip. And they went back to the farmhouse. Still no sign of Gef. But Harry Price did cut some of Mona's fur to compare to the sample that they had obtained before. They went back to England the next day. And apparently, as soon as Harry and Rex left, Gef showed up, announcing, "Well, I've come back."
Typical Gef.
Typical Gef. So he claimed that he'd been there the whole time, but he didn't want to talk to Harry Price because he was a doubter. He did agree to make a cast of... Oh, whoa, hold on. Siri's trying to talk to me and I don't really know why. Go away, Siri. She said okay. My keyboard keeps coming up too. It's driving me nuts. Okay. Where am I? I lost my place.
Make a cast.
He's going to make a cast. All right. So he agrees to make a cast of his footprints to send to Harry Price. He made a cast. So James, I guess, writes to Harry Price and asks him to send some like plaster of Paris to him so that Gef can make these casts for them.
Okay.
And he leaves the plaster of Paris out when they go to bed. And when they get up the next morning, Gef has made a cast of 3 of his feet and 1 of his teeth. And they send that back. And a zoologist with the British Museum said that they absolutely were not mongoose feet.
Well, they're little people hands.
Right. His letter stated, "This does not represent the footprint of any mammal known to me, except possibly a raccoon or American animal." He went... In America, we have mongooses with human hands.
Little human thingies.
And they migrated to the Isle of Man, and that's what happened.
Well, first they migrated to India.
Oh, India.
And then they got shot.
Yes. It's, you know what? They have a whole lore. So he went on
Cats
to...
are playing with whatever they destroyed.
I think it sounds like a gourd. Do you think?
Yeah, but I don't want them to destroy it either.
We'll go get it. We can wait. Right, Hazel. We can wait right here. Okay, so he went on to say that he thought that it might have been made by a dog, but also wrote, there is no mammal in which there is such a disparity in the size of the fore and hind foot. This does not appear to me to represent tooth marks. Finally, I must add that I do not believe these photographs represent foot tracks at all. And I'm like, if it was 3 different feet, wouldn't one of them have been like a little hand? If he has human hands. So...
Well, and that's the only thing that I can think of when he was saying maybe a raccoon. Because
they
raccoons
have little hands.
Little people hands.
That's true. So Martin Duncan at the London Zoo compared the clippings of Mona's fur to the first sample, and he declared them absolutely identical. So Harry Price and Rex Lambert published an article in the Listener magazine about their encounter or lack of an encounter with Gef, and James did not like this at all. He said their article was written in a mocking manner. And I guess later they also wrote a book about Gef. I don't know how much they could write about him, considering he didn't
appear for them.
Yeah. So other researchers visited, but after Voiré managed to get I wrote that weird. So other researchers had visited. Voiré, with her camera, managed to get a picture of Gef outside of the farmhouse, and I'll post that picture to social media when we're done here. And it kind of looks like a cat sitting on top of a fence. Hold on, I'll find it.
I told you Gef was a cat.
Gef is a cat. Let's see. Gef Mongoose picture. So this is the picture.
Okay.
Yeah. So you can't really tell what kind of an animal it is. It just looks furry.
Could be a mongoose.
And I guess there were mongooses in the area, but I don't think any of them talked.
Yeah.
So anyway, all right. So this picture gets the attention of Nandor Fodor. And he's another psychical researcher and he becomes interested in the story. And Fodor communicated with James for almost 2 years before James agreed to allow him to visit the farm. And he booked a week's stay at the farm and arrived in February of 1937. And so this has been going on for 6 years.
Yeah.
So he spends most of his time interviewing people from the community and getting their stories about Gef. Fodor himself did not encounter Gef during his entire stay.
Of course he didn't.
Right? In his report of the stay, he basically said, I can't prove or disprove anything because I didn't hear or see anything for myself. He did say that he thought maybe Gef was a split off part of James Irving's personality.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't write it down, I forgot to, but I just now thought of it. There's a movie about this, about Nandor Fodor going to research Gef the mongoose, Gef the Talking Mongoose. It has Simon Pegg in it, but apparently it's not funny at all, and it's very serious, but also I didn't watch it, but I've heard that it's very incredibly boring.
That's unfortunate.
I know, you would think Simon Pegg and a talking mongoose, just comedic history there, but alas no.
Comedy gold.
You'd think. Okay. So, bizarrely, around the same time, after Harry Price and Rex Lambert had published their book, Rex Lambert caught some heat for being associated with the Talking Mongoose. And he had been on the board of the British Film Institute, and they were none too keen on his views of the occult and paranormal, and basically called him crazy and tried to kick him off the board. and he sued them for slander and was awarded £7,500 in damages. And afterwards, the BBC banned the term talking mongoose.
Okay.
Do not say talking mongoose around me.
Don't you dare say those words.
They thought that it would like bring embarrassment on the channel or company. British Broadcasting Company, I guess. So in 1945, James Irving died. Margaret and Voyre sold the farmhouse and left. In 1946, a man named Leslie Graham bought the farmhouse, and he claimed to the press that he had killed Gef and was photographed with the body of a dead mongoose. Voyre saw the...
Corporation,
oh, yeah.
I was thinking it might be corporation, so I had to Google it.
So, Leslie Graham kills Gef. But Voyre sees the picture, and she's like, that's not Gef.
Okay.
Yeah. So, people think that maybe he did that to keep people from coming out there more. Like, he was like, Jeff's gone.
Jeff's dead, guys.
Done killed him.
No more Gef.
Yeah. So, the main theories, other than Fodor's theory about Gef being the split-off personality of James Irving, is, one, Gef was a poltergeist.
Okay.
Gef was an elaborate hoax made up by the Irving family, but, like, to what end? Because they didn't seem to have profited off of the story at all.
Hey, they were getting bank for those dead rabbits.
For the rabbits. That's what it was.
If they got rid of Gef, they wouldn't have their rabbit operation anymore.
So I did not write this down. I literally just thought about it when you said that. Something else that I think it was last podcast on the left that was talking about it. Voyre also liked to hunt rabbits.
Mm-hmm.
With the dog, and they would go out and hunt rabbits, and so perhaps she was the one killing the rabbits.
Yeah.
But piles of rabbits, I don't know. Some suspect that she was a skilled ventriloquist.
I was gonna say, a girl's got mad skills. She's a ventriloquist and a astute rabbit hunter.
A rabbit assassin. And then the other thing is that the house was built where, like, the outside walls, like the exterior walls and the interior walls, there was, like, a pretty big gap in between them.
Mm-hmm.
And so it acted kind of like, I can't think of the word, but like where sound could go through the walls. What am I trying to say? I feel like the word tube is involved there, but
I don't know. I can't think of what you're talking. I mean, I know what you're talking about, but I can't think of the word that you're talking about.
And so they kind of thought that maybe, like, if Voyre was upstairs in her room and made the Gef sounds, that you would be able to hear them in other parts of the house. And so there was also that. But most everything seemed to center around Voyre being behind it all.
Mm-hmm.
That she was a bored 13-year-old living on a remote farm with no friends and made the whole thing up.
I mean...
Yeah. Jeffrey Scont said that the most likely explanation is that this extra clever mongoose was an imaginary companion created by the Irvings' extra clever daughter. So Voyre died in 2005, but even in an interview published late in her life, she maintained that Gef was real. She said that at times she even hated him because of the attention that he brought to the farm, but he was very real.
Okay.
So that is the story of Gef the Talking Mongoose. Not just the mongoose, the talking mongoose.
Talking mongoose.
Anytime you hear him mentioned, it's Gef the Talking Mongoose.
Yes. The invisible talking mongoose with little people hands.
Little people hands. He's a real live mongoose.
Real live mongoose.
That's dead.
That also happens to be dead.
And invisible.
I don't know how I feel about Gef.
Well, that was your birthday present, so you should love Gef.
Okay, well, thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Thank you for that sideshow of a birthday present.
It's good stuff. Yeah, it's a very silly story. I don't really know what to think of it.
No, I don't have a lot of words for that story.
Yeah. I feel like with all of the evidence, like with the fur being dog fur and other things, that like it most likely was not real.
No.
But it brought some like tourists to the Isle of Man, so they probably liked that.
Mm-hmm.
And it gave them some entertainment for like a decade. There probably is.
It gave them something to do.
Yeah, there isn't a whole lot going on over there besides motorcycle racing these days.
Mm-hmm.
The house, I said that earlier, that they tore it down not long after they had moved out, and so it's just like foundation stuff now. Mm-hmm. I looked it up on Google Maps. Like, you can still see like pieces of the foundation around, but the rest of it's gone, which is a shame if it was built in like the 1300s.
Okay,
It's
but
like
my question is, where is Gef now?
It's a good, well, Leslie Graham killed him.
But Lori said it was not Gef.
Sure. But how could she be sure? If she only caught glimpses of him before, how would she know?
I don't know.
She claimed, I don't remember what it was, if that one was bigger than Gef or if Gef was bigger than the one that was in the picture, but that was her reasoning for saying that it wasn't Gef. I don't know, because if he was a spirit, would he have stayed there, or would he have like gone a haunting somewhere else? And why don't we hear about Gef anywhere else?
Exactly.
And then there's all of the things that like the weird like burial mounds and stuff that are around there, and so people think it just could have been haunted. There was another story, and I didn't write it down, where like I guess some workers or some kids or something, I think it was kids, had like rolled a ball into the hedge like nearby, and that they went to try to get it, and there was like some kind of like invisible force like keeping them from like going any further. Or that the ball, and then the ball came rolling back out to them or something. But yeah, there's a whole website dedicated to Gef quotes. I feel like Gef could probably have his own like reality show on Oxygen or something.
He's a character, if nothing else.
That's right. I mean, he would put those Kardashians out of business. He has all the hot goss.
I would definitely watch Jeff's show before I watch the Kardashians show.
Absolutely. All right. Well, we're sleepy because it's late.
It's late. I have to go make eggs, though.
I have to go to work tomorrow.
Me too, but I still have to go make eggs.
Blech. Well, so social media at Twisted and Mysterious, or email us at twistedandmysteriousPodcast@gmail.com. Anything else?
Why do I feel like there was something else?
I don't know.
Whatever it was, it's gone now.
Excuse me.
Anyway, I think that's all we have for you this week. Next week's episode will hopefully be out at the right time.
It should be. Next week should go back to normal. Hopefully.
Okay, well, we will see you next week, or you can hear us next week.
Yeah, you probably won't see us.
And we won't see you.
No.
But you can hear our voices next week, should you feel so inclined.
Yeah.
We're kind of like Gef.
We will talk to you.
But you will not see us.
You will not see us. I'm also not going to let you pet my fur, though.
And I have tiny little doll hands.
Yep.
So,
please don't stick your fingers in my mouth to feel my little teeth.
I'll leave you clumps of hair as a gift.
Blech.
Okay. Well, that's us for this week. So, remember that people are gross and don't get murdered.
And
bye.
Stay away from Gef.
Yes. Bye.
Bye.